My name is Greg McCoach, editor of the Mining Speculator. For those of you who don't know me, I've been writing my newsletter for 18 years, going into the 19th year here in July. Anyway, glad to be here. A lot to discuss, a lot to talk about. Interesting times. Today I have what I call my elephant hunters on my panel. I call it the elephant hunting panel because each one of these companies that I've invited, as a newsletter writer, we invite the companies to this show. These are my companies. First is David Kelly, CEO David Kelly, with a Peruvian copper gold story, Chicana Copper. Second is John Biczak, Ramios Gold, a Golden Triangle advanced stage gold project that's very exciting. Then Trey Wasser, Ely Gold Royalties, Nevada royalty play. And last but not least, Michael Gunning of VR Resources. I always say as a newsletter writer that, you know, if you're going to invest your speculative monies in these juniors, you might as well go big. The risk is the same, whether you invest in a company that's drilling a smaller project or one that's doing something on a large scale. On this panel, all of these companies are basically in elephant country and have very exciting projects which you'll hear about. And so, you know, for me, one of the things that's been tough for us as, you know, as investors, particularly as a newsletter writer, in a tough market, you know, you're only as good as the last time you made your investors' money, your subscribers' money. So we're looking for that turn in the markets, and so I'm going to talk a little bit about today. I find last night I had two of my subscribers that I was talking to right before dinner that were hanging out in the lobby, and you know, everyone's weary, right? I think the people that come to these conferences at this point, you know, really have some staying power and understand that, you know, these markets turn, and when they turn quickly, and it can be a lot of fun. But the duration of this particular bear has been long and hard on investors. It's basically been a 7-year bear market with one short reprieve in 2016. And what we've seen is a good portion of the speculative monies that normally support our sector have gone to greener pastures, which obviously have been Dow stocks, cryptos, cannabis stocks that have performed well and made people money. But some of those markets are definitely having some issues as well, and those markets, I think, are in a bubble and will be popped at some point. So why are investors still coming to conferences like this if we've been in a 7-year bear market? Well, bull markets follow bear markets, and we're looking for that turn. We know it's coming. I wish I could tell you the exact time frame, but I don't know. I'm guessing, you know, it seems like there's a lot of evidence that's building and mounting that that's going to happen, and we'll talk about that a little bit later in my talk. So I think the main reason that you're here is because you've experienced at some point in the past what wealth creation can do when a discovery is made. You've made money before in these markets. And if you've been involved over the long haul, you've also lost money in these markets. There's no doubt about it. So, you know, as a newsletter writer, again, it's great fun when it's all going well. You're a rock star, and then when it's not, you're just sucking gutter water and, you know, looking for when this is going to turn. So anyway, so wealth creation through discovery. Some people like to play developmental plays. Some people like to play the production companies. I have always been a guy that wants to make big money in the exploration stocks. I've done it in the past many times, and I think it's going to happen again, and I think it's coming very soon. And I have 4 companies here that on my panel that I think have great potential to achieve that for us. So what is discovery? A quote that I have on my Discovery Nexus website, which is Discovery Publishing is my publisher. This one is by a Hungarian botanist and who had made multiple discoveries in his career. And he said, discovery consists of seeing what everybody has seen and thinking what nobody has thought. Okay? It really takes out-of-the-box thinking. And I was just recently on a site visit with our last panelist here, Mike Gunning of VR Resources, and we went through their project in Nevada called Bonita Springs, and Mike explained to me the process that they've been going through over 4 years that has brought about this out-of-the-box thinking that led them to what I believe is a great chance at a new discovery. So this is what we look for in these exploration stocks. I want a chance at a big win. I'm not talking about 40 cents to $4. I want 40, 50 cents to 30 bucks, right? That's when you can hit it out of the park. So another great quote related to discovery. Daniel Borston, the greatest obstacle to discovery is not ignorance, it's the illusion of knowledge, right? Somebody thinks they know something that just ain't so, right? And they get stuck on that path, never getting to the point of real discovery. So a lot of times when I'm talking with companies, I'm very interested if they have this discovery mentality, because it does take out-of-the-box thinking. The statistic that I think just stands out more than any other in this business, in the exploration side, is the fact that 94% of working geologists will work their entire careers and never get credit for an economic discovery that becomes a producing mine. 94%. 6%, the 6%ers as I call them, not only do it once, but they tend to do it over and over again. So you learn very quickly as a newsletter writer, who are these 6%ers, you get to know them and you follow them. And a lot of them are getting older now. And we got a new crew coming in, and a lot of the young talent that I've seen on recent site visits is very, very encouraging. We have a lot of new, sharp young people that are in this industry that I think will be the next big mine finders. So I think right now the important thing to do as a contrarian who's interested in this sector is the market's down. Look for the values. Look for the companies that offer the best chance at success for a rebound. Now, if you're into exploration stocks or development stocks or production companies, there's lots of good companies out there that are trading at a fraction of what they should be. Now's the time to build a portfolio, because when these markets turn, they tend to turn quick. It's like a flip of the light switch. 1 minute it's on, or 1 minute it's off, and the next second it's on. And it's game on, and things happen very quickly. So the other thing I look for, again, is the wow factor. Does this company, I think, overall, retail investors of junior mining stocks need to become more discerning as to what they'll allow in their portfolio, right? It's easy to listen and get caught up into a PowerPoint presentation. Oh, that sounds like an interesting one. I should put some money on that. Well, maybe you should slow down a little bit and really dig down into the details. And don't be afraid to call these guys on the phone. They're all accessible. Anybody not accessible here to retail people? They're all accessible, right? And they want to talk to you, which is odd because that's not the case in the corporate world for most other sectors, right? Ask your questions. Make sure you know what the right questions to ask. What's the answer that these guys are looking for? Make sure you understand that. And does that fit with what you're looking for as an investor? So the wow factor, I consider something I want to be excited. One of my business partners over the years, he always says, "Oh, Greg, when you're excited, you're a great salesman, because everybody knows that there's something going on. They can just tell by your enthusiasm when you're talking about certain stories." And he can always hear it on the phone. And when he hears that, he says, "Well, Greg, I haven't heard that in a while." And just recently, he heard it from me. He says, "Oh, that's a good sign. Maybe the market's getting ready to turn again." And I think, yeah, I think so. I think we're getting close. So what's going to make our markets turn? We need higher metals prices, precious metal prices. Gold, silver have just been in this tight, super tight trading range. And it's hard for the mining stocks to really get going without that impetus of rise in the price of the metals themselves. Sometimes that leads us, other times the stocks can lead us. That can happen if there's a big discovery. That's another thing we're looking for. We're hoping that one of these companies that's in the field can make a big enough discovery that ignites the whole market again and tells people, wow, look at all that. Look at those investors that bought it 15, 20, 50 cents and the stock went to $10, $20, right? We all dream of one like that. Well, it's going to happen, and there's a lot of good people in the field right now. All the best exploration teams are in the field that I know, and they're trying to make that happen because the majors are desperate to replenish their reserves. They need these discoveries, and they look to the juniors to make them because the more talented people, those 6%ers, don't want to work for the big majors. They want to work for themselves. And they're sitting here. These guys are sitting on our panel today. And in this conference, there's many of the 6%ers that are in these rooms. So yeah, be more discerning as to what companies you allow in your portfolio. So just some basic questions that I would be asking right now with the market the way it is. And I have a whole list of things depending on that I keep in a file, questions like this for different markets, up and down. What should we be looking at right now? Well, first ask yourself, are there any new discoveries that at one point ran up to high levels in the recent year or so that are once again priced low? You know, and ask yourself, has anything changed? Market perceptions changed, that's all. There's nothing wrong with the discovery that we've found out in this period. But a company, let's say Golden Predator, right? Golden Predator is in my newsletter. They've been here at the show multiple times. 35 cents, I recommended it. Went to 220 on their discovery up in the Yukon. Stock's back at 50 cents. Did something happen? No. It's just market perception, lack of buying activity, right? And that's what happens in this market. You get a chance to buy low again when, you know, it gives you, the investor, the retail investor, an opportunity. So that lessens your risk. The discovery's already been made. The market's giving you this chance to buy back in, and you'll say, a lot of them will come to me, well, God, Greg, there's got to be something wrong with it. No, there's nothing wrong with it. It's this big discovery that's in process. So that's one question. Second, are there exceptional values in development or production stories because of the horrendous bear market? Well, we saw that in 2015. I wrote a report called The Right Stocks for the Rebound. Things were so desperate and so bad in 2015. As a newsletter writer, where do you go with this, right? And I said, look, all I can tell you is the market will rebound, and here's the best quality companies that will be the first to move up again. Well, that was a fortuitous thing for me because that was December of 2015. That happened to be the bottom of the market. And we had this 2016 run where we were able to cash up and make some money within 8 months. Fortunately, we took that money off the table because as we've seen in the last couple of years, it's gone back down again. Interest is waned. So anyway, last, does the management team have the people that can make the out-of-the-box do they have the out-of-the-box thinking it requires to make such a discovery? This is the thing I really think retail investors need to focus on. There's a lot of people in this business. At this particular conference, you get companies that are much better than the typical conference that has 400 booths because the newsletter writers are screening them for you. In other words, that's my job. I think the primary job of a newsletter writer is to screen for you, the retail investor, through all the garbage that's out there, and there's a lot of scam artists in this business like there isn't any business. And my job is to bring you the right people who are trying to put the money in the ground to do the right things. That's our job as newsletter writers. We present them. We can't control what the drills do, right? But those of us that have experience with this know how to, kind of put the odds more in our favor as a retail investor. So that's why I speak at the money shows and this show now. I don't speak at any other conferences because I like the venue here. I like the fact that I'm real happy to invite any of my friends or subscribers to this conference because I know they can walk around the room and talk to a lot of good people. So there's a guy named Graham Summers who I've been following. Very brilliant guy. He wrote a book recently called The Everything Bubble, The Endgame of Central Bank Policy. And I think it's a book that every investor This book, if you read it, you will know more than 99.9% of the population about how our financial system works and what is actually happening. None of this stuff is taught anywhere. It's not taught in the schools. The government controls schools and colleges and universities. That's all slanted in favor of the central bankers. You don't get the truth. This book will reveal the truth for you, and I've known a lot of the stuff that's in there, but the key point that Graham has made and why I'm following him and why I'm giving him credit and telling my subscribers about his research. I've been doing this for about 5 months now, and you know, his thinking is explaining to me how these guys have gotten away with this for so long. You know, I keep thinking, you know, how can you do the wrong thing over and over again and get away with it? Well, you have an electronic printing press where you can just create money out of thin air, but you know, there's a limit to that stuff, and it seems like those limits have been breached multiple times, and we've been on the precipice of going over the edge of the cliff, but again, here we are with the illusion of prosperity, even though all the other facts say otherwise. And so anyway, what I'm saying is that you should read this book. It's $11 on Amazon. I think, Mike, you and I just talked about it. You ordered it. It's $11. You can get it delivered within 3 days. You can read the book in 5 hours, and you'll know more than most other people in the world about what's happening. He has several exclamation points in the book after certain chapters. He says, "Good God Almighty, how do we tolerate this? This isn't conspiracy theory. This is the truth. Why do we, the people, put up with this and allow this criminal entity to do what they do to us?" Right? And he spells it out so you can't possibly get it wrong or misunderstand. Anyway, Graham's basic premise is that the Fed goes from one bubble to another to create this illusion of prosperity, to keep a strong dollar, because that's the linchpin to the whole financial system. And so, you know, when the tech bubble blew up in 1999, they created a real estate bubble, and then that bubble blew up in 2008. And so in 2009, they had to reflate everything and created the mother of all bubbles called the sovereign bond bubble. And you'll learn about that. And you'll learn that right now, within the last 6 months, a big warning sign went up as the yields on the 10-year Treasury bond have broken out of a 10-year downtrend. And this spells inflation. And if you are a consumer, you know that inflation is happening in our societies. And so this is the mother of all bubbles. It will burst. I can't tell you the time frame, but we're getting close, and this will be good for gold. This will be good for precious metal mining shares. This is going to be a good time. He also is saying that the system is choking with this unsustainable debt, and that this final showdown is coming, and that this is the end of the central bank policy as we've known it. Great book. You should read it. Graham's basic points, I'm not going to even get into this. You can read it in the book. He's just a very brilliant guy that has basically spelled it out for anybody who wants to know the truth about how our financial system works and what's coming. And the key to watching this is this 10-year Treasury bond that tells you what's going to happen. And when it does, it's going to be a big deal. Massive changes are coming. So there's some list of potential key disruptive events that I want people to pay attention, because it's going to be very negative for the dollar. Watch, I've been talking about this ever since I heard about it. The renminbi, the gold-backed oil petrodollar, okay? This is happening. It's been in process, but now it's actually happening. Saudi oil sales in renminbi to China, right? In other words, instead of using dollars to pay for oil, more and more countries are now using the gold-backed Chinese currency. This is a major negative for the U.S. and the U.S. dollar. Much more widely used renminbi in all sales between Arabs and Asians now. It's happening. It's going on. Flourishing non-U.S. dollar platforms are happening. London Metals Exchange launches renminbi-based metals contracts. Wow. The whole system is going against the U.S. dollar-based system. Italian banking system collapse. I've been talking about that for a year. These banks are toast. There's no reflating them, okay? Watch that. That's going to be in the news. The Deutsche Bank failure, that's coming. They're labeled too big to fail, but watch what happens. Germans formally ending the Russian sanctions. That's going to have an impact. Quickly going through these. Gold platform announces a conversion of sovereign bonds to gold. Again, There it is. Gold is going to be the final solution to this big mess the central bankers of the world have created. A formal launch of gold trade note. China pre-announces gold-backed renminbi in form of convertible gold trade note. Convertible gold. This is what's coming. This is a big change that's happening in our world. EU opens the door to euro payments and trade with member nations. Okay, another negative for the U.S. dollar. Recent revelations, the next generation of energy systems centered upon silver. Have you been reading about this? Very exciting. They're keeping a lid on this because they don't want the populace to know that there's other ways of creating energy, and silver is a big component. Silver's dirt cheap. Anyway, so with that in mind, I don't want to take any more time here. We'll just skip here. The lesson is to basically take profits in overvalued assets now, be they crypto, stocks, bonds, or property, sell overvalued assets and buy undervalued assets. And I think the most undervalued assets in our investment landscape right now is mining shares. Rebalance portfolios, diversify into undervalued assets like gold and silver. Physical bullion is dirt cheap. I think people will rue the day that they didn't buy at times like now. Anyway, that's me. Thanks for listening. First up,